events. This is a book you should know about, especially if you are in America or Christianity means anything to you. This is called The Flag and the Cross, and this is a shorter summary that I'm going to do of it. I have a much longer summary on my, well, I say much longer. I have a longer summary on my channel. In fact, I really don't know that I can do this in 5 minutes. The book is very rich with ideas, but also the biggest thing about this book is how they're going to collect evidence, and they're going to use that evidence. And that really sets it apart from a lot of books like this, because what I find is, looking at a lot of these books that talk about white Christian nationalism, is that they're very they're more like rants. They're more like preaching to the choir, just to kind of get people riled up, I guess. And so there's no cold hard data there or something to at least look at or interpretations to make. So I think that's what sets this book apart. Well, let's get into it. What Samuel Perry and Philip Gorski are doing is they're going to try to define white Christian nationalism, and then they're going to kind of talk about why it's specifically white, and then they're going to talk about what the future may look like if we continue with on this path that we're presently going with this story continuing of white Christian nationalism. So my biggest question was, I was one of these people who really didn't know what that meant. Like, how is nationalism different from patriotism? And why does it specifically have to be white? Well, Perry and Gorski answer this question. What they do is they collect a bunch of data. They just ask questions, and they collect a lot of data. They first define Christian nationalism. And that is, they ask questions that have to do with things like, well, basically, do you think this is a Christian nation? Do you think that the United States government should enforce Christianity? Do you think there should be prayer in school? Things like that. Depending on how you answer that is where they put you on. They gave you a number to assign you of how white Christian nationalist you are, right? And if you answered 100% correct, like you are 100% white Christian nationalist, and if you answered nothing correct, then you're none. Now, that's just Christian nationalism, right? So there's Christian nationalists across the board. There's many different denominations. They're in many different denominations. There are many different races. So why white? Well, they asked a bunch of other questions, and these questions had to do with things like, during COVID-19, who did you trust? Like for information, did you trust Donald Trump or did you trust the CDC? Do you think that we should wear masks or close churches? They asked a bunch of questions about race. So the important thing is they're not linked at all, right? There's no link between them. And Christian nationalists can have a variety of different answers on who should we trust. Are different races going to experience discrimination or whatever? But if you are white Christian nationalist, you answer all of these questions exactly the same. Okay, so, and in fact, the higher your score is, so the more you get to be a white Christian nationalist, the higher the probability is that you are going to answer like that. Like, it's like a straight line correlation. Let's say you answered 50% of the questions as Christian nationalist and 50% of the questions as not. So if you're white, then you have a 50% possibility of answering that question like all the other white Christian nationalists, and 50% of not. You see what I'm getting at? Is that it's not just it's a very strong straight line correlation. So so we can define white Christian nationalists as not just over here Christian nationalists, but also people who think the same about things like, is it racist to call the COVID-19 virus the Chinese virus, right? And all white Christian nationalists will say the same thing. No. Okay, and depending on where you fall in between that, you have a probability of saying the same thing. So what links them all together? What links this with this? And it's their whiteness. Well, why? So what Philip and Gorski hypothesize is, they say it's because they're living in the same narrative. They have this same narrative thought about what happened in America. Basically, America was formed by white Christian men who put their Christian values into our founding documents, and then and they built the American dream, right? And then I'm also entitled to that American dream because I am a white Christian. But the more we let non-white, non-Christian people come in, the further and further I get from that American dream. So it's almost like you're cutting in line, taking up my resources, taking my possibilities away from me. Because remember, it's the land of the free, but it's the land of the free for white people. And so they say this is the narrative that we have. And we have different places in our history where we could have said, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're going to be a more inclusive society. But at every turn, like this happened during the Civil War, or at the end of the Civil War, this happened during civil rights. But at the turn of these things, we always come back to white Christian nationalism. And so what they foresee happening in the future is, and probably a very near future, is that we're again going to have the same decision that we need to make. And their hope is obviously to bring together all the people who are not white Christian nationalists to jettison this idea. Okay, that's my short summary of this book. I don't think it nearly did justice to all the things. In fact, I may not publish this video. We'll see. But I guess maybe I should, just as an encouragement, to say, if this stuff strikes you, if you want to know more, go watch my longer video. And then if you don't get answers out of that, go buy the book. It's definitely worth having, if nothing else, for the charts and the graphs. Okay.